You know those days, the ones where you're just chugging along, minding your own business, deep in the zone, and then bam, reality slaps you with something so utterly bonkers, you wonder if you've stumbled into a sketch comedy show. Yeah, I had one of those days recently, and trust me, it's a doozy. So I'm Ethan, an architect by trade, and I was buried deep in a new residential project, envisioning sleek lines and functional beauty. You know the drill. My office is a pretty chill space, usually just the hum of computers and the occasional murmur of colleagues. I was sketching away, a steaming mug of lukewarm coffee by my side, when there was a hesitant, yet somehow impatient, knock on my doorframe. I looked up and there they were, a middle-aged couple. The woman, who would soon become the star of this absurd drama, had that restless, I need answers now energy radiating off her like a heat lamp. Her husband just looked a bit defeated, standing slightly behind her. Thinking they might be new clients or deliveries, I gestured them in with a polite, "Come on in, folks." The moment they stepped over the threshold, the woman cut straight to the chase, her voice a little sharper than I expected. "Is this the doctor's office?" I blinked. My office, with its large drafting table, shelves packed with architectural models, and blueprints tacked to the wall, looks nothing like a doctor's office. Like not even a little. "Oh no, ma'am," I replied, trying to keep a friendly tone. "This is an architecture firm. We design buildings." She frowned, a confused, almost accusatory expression on her face. "An architecture firm, but I need the doctor's office. Where is it?" "Now our building is a multi-tenant affair, and doctors do have offices on other floors." "Right," I said, pointing towards the hallway. "There are stairs just around the corner and the elevators right next to them. You should find a directory." But she didn't wait. Mid-sentence, she took 2 determined strides past me, practically nudging my shoulder, and planted herself firmly in the middle of my office. It was such an unexpected invasion of personal space, I actually flinched. My polite smile faltered. "Ma'am." She ignored me, hands on her hips, scanning my very much not a doctor's office space. "Well, tell me where it is. My appointment is soon." I tried to regain my composure. "As I was saying, there are many doctors' offices in this building. I don't know which one you're looking for, but there's a directory." "Just call them," she snapped, cutting me off again. "Call them and ask where they are. It's your job to help people." My job is to design buildings, not to be a human information desk for an entire office block." "Ma'am," I said, my voice tightening ever so slightly, "I'm an architect. I don't have a receptionist's contact list for every doctor in the building." She scoffed, a truly dismissive sound. "Well, that's just unhelpful. You have a phone, don't you? Just call them for me." I gestured to the landline on my desk. "You're welcome to use my phone if you want to call them directly, but I don't know the number." "No, you call them," she insisted, her voice getting louder. "I don't have their number. What kind of place is this? Don't you care about your customers?" "My customers are people who hire me to design buildings," I clarified, my patience starting to wear thin. "Look, if you can tell me your doctor's name or the practice and maybe your appointment time, I can try to look it up on my computer. But I can't promise anything." She huffed. "I don't remember. It was just a regular checkup. This is ridiculous. What do I pay you for?" I stared at her, utterly bewildered. She paid me for nothing. This was reaching peak absurdity. "Ma'am, I really suggest you check the building directory by the elevators. It lists every office and their floor number." That did it. Her face flushed a deep red. "This is your building. You should know. Fine. If you won't help, call the building manager. They'll sort this out." "Oh, for crying out loud. There's no staffed main office here, ma'am," I explained, trying to keep a level tone despite the rising irritation in my chest. "And we don't have direct contact info for the building manager ourselves. Everything's handled by a general facilities line, which wouldn't help you find a doctor." She threw her hands up in exasperation. "You are just utterly useless. I've never met such an unhelpful person in my life. What kind of service is this?" Her husband, bless his heart, actually winced and offered me a weak, apologetic shrug from behind her. Finally, with a dramatic huff and a glare that could curdle milk, she spun on her heel, grabbed her mortified husband by the arm, and practically dragged him out of my office. I heard her muttering down the hall something about reporting that lazy man at the front desk. I couldn't help but shake my head, a small, disbelieving laugh escaping me. Maybe she thought architecture was some newfangled form of acupuncture, and I was supposed to be her first point of contact for all things medical. Honestly, you just can't win with some people. All you can do is try to be helpful and keep a straight face, even when they're making you question reality. Who knows, maybe one day I'll run into her again, and we can all laugh about the time an architect was almost forced into receptionist duties. Until then, I'll just stick to designing beautiful buildings and hoping my next visitors are actual clients. Thanks for letting me vent, folks. Stay sane out there.
You think the first two were crazy, the next one's a whole different level. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more stories like this.
Ever have one of those days where you're just trying to enjoy a quiet afternoon with your kid, and suddenly you're the starring role in a full-blown Karen meltdown? Yeah, that was me, Cedric, last Tuesday. Grab a seat, folks, because this one's a doozy. So picture this, I'm a regular middle-aged dude, happily married, got a fantastic kiddo. We live in an apartment, not exactly rolling in cash, but we're doing all right, you know. And just a stone's throw from our place, there's this great spot, a restaurant, a bar, even a poke machine, don't ask, and best of all, a big sprawling playground. It's our go-to for letting the little one burn off some energy. This particular day, the sun was shining, a gentle breeze was blowing, and my kiddo was tearing it up on the playground equipment. I was perched on a nearby bench, soaking in the peace, watching him climb and slide, just enjoying being a dad. It was one of those perfect moments. Then another kid, maybe a year or two older than mine, darted into the playground structure. He vanished pretty quickly amongst the tunnels and slides. I barely registered it, my focus still on my own little adventurer. A few minutes later, a woman stormed into the playground area. Now, I've seen my share of Karens in the wild, and this one, she had the look. Tense, hurried, and radiating a distinct air of "I demand to speak to your manager." Her eyes were darting around, clearly searching for someone. She spotted me sitting there in my very non-uniform-like clothes, looking relaxed. She marched right up, her face already tight with stress. "Excuse me," she snapped, not even a hello. "Have you seen a little boy in here? He's wearing a blue shirt." I thought for a second. Yeah, I think I saw a kid in a blue shirt go in a minute ago, but I wasn't really tracking him, you know. My kid's over there." I gestured to my son, happily oblivious. Her eyes narrowed. "You think you saw him go in and you didn't tell me he was in here?" Her voice was already rising. "What kind of staff member just sits there and doesn't even bother to keep an eye on the children?" My brow furrowed. "Whoa, hold on a second," I said, putting up a hand. "I don't work here. I'm just a dad like you watching my kid." She scoffed, a truly magnificent scoff. "Don't give me that. You're sitting right next to the equipment, clearly supervising. My son is up in that top room." She pointed dramatically to the very highest point of the play structure, "and he can't get down. You need to go in there and get him." I stared at her. "Ma'am, I just told you I don't work here. And even if I did, I'm not crawling through a children's playground to retrieve your child." "That's your job. I mean, I'm a middle-aged guy, not exactly built for those tight plastic tunnels." Her face went from stressed to full-on furious. "You are the most useless staff member I have ever encountered. Get in there right now, or I'm going to report you to your manager." "Lady," I said, my voice losing its easygoing tone, "I am not staff. I am not your babysitter, and you are responsible for your kid's safety, not me." I stood up just to emphasize the point. She let out a frustrated growl and, much to my amusement, decided to take matters into her own hands. She stomped over to the entrance of the play structure and tried to squeeze through the opening designed for children. It was a sight to behold. She grunted, she pushed, she twisted, but her adult frame simply wasn't going to fit. After a good 30 seconds of struggling, looking utterly ridiculous, she gave up, pulling herself out, red-faced and huffing. She turned back to me, her anger now truly incandescent. "See, he's stuck up there because you wouldn't help him. You left my son up there, scared and alone." I couldn't help it. A small, disbelieving laugh bubbled up. "Are you serious right now? You tried to crawl in there yourself and couldn't fit, and somehow I left your kid scared." "Ma'am, you are the one who needs to be keeping track of your child, not pawning him off on strangers you assume work here." The air practically crackled between us. She started yelling something about my attitude, about how unprofessional I was, about how she was going to get me fired. I just shook my head, my patience completely gone. "Look," I said, cutting her off, "I'm not doing it. I'm here to enjoy time with my kid. You need to find your kid yourself, or maybe ask an actual staff member for help, if there even is one designated for the playground." "But it's certainly not me." She sputtered, unable to come up with a retort that could withstand the sheer brick wall of my disinterest and refusal. Her eyes darted around, probably looking for another target, but there was no one else within earshot. Finally, with one last venomous glare, she stormed off, presumably to find an actual employee or maybe just to stew in her own entitlement. My kiddo, meanwhile, finally noticed the commotion and came running over, asking what was wrong. "Nothing, buddy," I told him, ruffling his hair. "Just a silly grown-up being silly." I sat back down, watching him run off again, a slow smile spreading across my face. Didn't save the world, didn't even get a free meal, but man, standing my ground against that level of irrationality. Yeah, that felt pretty damn good. Sometimes a small victory is all you need.
You know, after months of deployment, all I really wanted was a day that felt normal. No drills, no strict schedules, just the simple, beautiful mundane. So there I was, Alex, a soldier on leave, living out my wildest civilian fantasy. Grocery shopping at the local supermarket. I was practically giddy, planning out a real home-cooked meal, relishing the sheer variety of canned goods, something you definitely don't get in a MRE. I was deep in thought about the perfect pasta sauce when I spotted her, an elderly woman, her arms trembling slightly under the weight of a heavy bag of oranges. Without a second thought, I went over. "Ma'am, let me get that for you," I offered, taking the bag from her. She gave me the sweetest, most grateful smile, and we chatted a bit as I helped her gather the rest of her items and steer her cart towards the checkout. It felt good, just a simple act of kindness. My day was going perfectly. That's when she materialized. A woman in her late 40s, sharp-featured, with a purse clutched in a way that screamed, "I mean business." Her eyes, narrowed and scanning, landed squarely on me as I helped the elderly lady unload her cart onto the conveyor belt. "Excuse me," she snapped, cutting across the aisle. Her voice was already laced with an edge, not a question but a demand. I need help with my groceries, right now." I blinked, genuinely confused for a second. "Ma'am, I'm actually just helping this kind lady here," I replied, gesturing to the elderly woman, "and I don't work here, so I can't really assist you." Her face went from stern to a blotchy, furious red faster than a drill sergeant can scream. "What do you mean you don't work here? I just saw you helping that old hag. Don't you lie to me." "I'm a paying customer and I demand assistance from an employee." She practically spat the word employee. "Ma'am, with all due respect, I'm wearing a t-shirt and jeans, not a store uniform," I said, trying to keep my voice even. The old lady next to me looked mortified. "I'm on military leave. I was just being a good Samaritan." That only seemed to ignite her further. "Military leave? What, are you too good to help a taxpayer? Is that what they teach you, to be lazy and disrespect women? I pay your salary, you ungrateful little." My patience, which usually runs pretty deep after dealing with some truly spectacular personalities in the service, was starting to wear thin. My jaw tightened. "Look, I don't work here. I'm a customer just like you. And I'm currently helping another customer." I pointedly turned back to the elderly woman. "Are you all set, ma'am?" This infuriated the Karen. She stomped up to me, getting right in my personal space, her finger jabbing towards my chest. "You are being incredibly rude. I'm going to report you to your manager. You'll be fired so fast your head will spin." "Who is your manager?" she shrieked, her voice echoing through the usually quiet canned goods aisle, drawing curious stares. "Again, I don't work here," I stated, my voice dropping to a low, firm tone that usually gets attention. My military training was kicking in, reminding me to stay calm but project authority. "I am not an employee. There is no manager for you to report me to here." She leaned in, her voice a venomous hiss. "Oh, I'll find out. I'll call corporate. You think you can just ignore a paying customer? You're a disgrace. You probably just pretend to be a soldier to get out of doing honest work." That hit a nerve. I'd seen things, done things that most civilians couldn't even imagine. And here she was, questioning my service, my integrity, over a bag of groceries. My hand clenched, but I forced myself to take a slow, deep breath. Just as I was about to deliver a very pointed, very non-military friendly retort, a calm, authoritative voice cut through the air. "Is there a problem here, ma'am?" The store manager, a stout man with a weary expression, had appeared out of nowhere. He'd clearly been drawn by the commotion. The Karen immediately pivoted, her face transforming into a mask of righteous indignation. Finally, this man, he's refusing to help me, he's disrespectful, and he's lying about not working here. He even said he was on military leave to avoid his duties. The manager looked at me, then at the elderly woman who was now clutching my arm nervously. "Is this true, sir?" he asked me, his eyes questioning. "No, sir," I replied, keeping my posture straight, my voice steady. "I'm Alex. I'm actually a sergeant in the army on leave. I offered to help this lady with her groceries." This woman, I nodded towards the Karen, then demanded I help her, and when I explained I don't work here, she became aggressive and started yelling, accusing me of lying and disrespecting my service. The manager's eyes narrowed on the Karen. "Ma'am, is this true? Did you just accuse a decorated service member of lying and disrespecting his service, and demand he assist you when he's clearly not an employee?" Her face went from red to purple. "He was helping, he is an employee, he's just being lazy," she screeched, trying to point at me, but her hand was trembling. The manager didn't even flinch. He just looked at her with a calm, cold gaze. "Ma'am, I believe Mr. Alex here. I also saw you yelling from over by aisle 7. We've had complaints about your behavior before. Mr. Alex is a customer, not an employee, and frankly, your accusations are offensive." He then turned to me. "Sergeant, thank you for your service and thank you for helping our customer. I sincerely apologize for this inconvenience." Then he turned back to the Karen, his voice firm and unwavering. "Ma'am, you are creating a disturbance and harassing other shoppers and staff. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. If you refuse, I will call the police, and you will be trespassed from this store permanently." The Karen looked like she'd been slapped. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. She glanced around at the other shoppers, many of whom were now openly staring, some even nodding in agreement with the manager. Her bravado completely evaporated. She huffed, snatched her empty cart, and stomped off, muttering curses under her breath, not even making eye contact. The manager sighed, running a hand over his face. "Again, Sergeant, my apologies. Thank you for handling that so calmly." "Just trying to enjoy my day off, sir," I said, a small, wry smile finally breaking through. "Well, please enjoy the rest of it," he replied, giving me a nod before walking off to deal with whatever other chaos the day held. I finished helping the sweet elderly lady, who kept thanking me profusely and apologizing for the scene. I told her not to worry about it, that some people just like drama. As I finally got my own groceries and headed for the checkout, I couldn't help but reflect. I'd come into the supermarket wanting normal, wanting peace. I certainly didn't get that. But I did learn that sometimes, the most challenging battles aren't fought on a faraway battlefield, but right there in aisle 5 against an entitled Karen. And sometimes the best way to win is to simply stand your ground, keep your cool, and let common sense and a good manager prevail. The end.
If you liked this video, you'll want to check this one out next.